Hi, this is Chris Griffiths, and we're back to looking at putting together a search and viewing results. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a really simple search. We're going to go to Searches Standard, and we're going to do Residential. We're going to do Pasadena. Notice that when you do the city, it's not asking you to type in Pasadena. It allows you to select, and then it's going to put in the abbreviation. Notice that active is selected by default. We're going to do everything up to 300,000. Let's do a preview count. Now, preview count is really useful because if you make a boo-boo, you find out quicker. Okay, so we've got 34. We're going to save this search. Now, the way we do that, and we looked at it briefly when we were in the map, is we come over here to the options pane on the right-hand side of the screen. We click anywhere in that line, and we'll now call this Pass Res up to 300. I've never really counted how many characters there are, but you can't write a book here. You have to abbreviate. So we're going to click Save. You'll see we get a nice little message down here. We're going to close the options pane. And now notice in the top left, we've got searches plural, and right below it, search singular. They're very close together, very easy to hit the wrong one. But we're going to hit search. And what's going to happen is it's going to run that search, and it's going to show us the 34 listings we found. Now, before we go on, I want to show you something. There are visual indicators in the MLS that are designed so that you can quickly scan down a list and your eye will be drawn to things that have changed. So notice that some of these listings have a green N. That green N means that it is new on the market, so it's a new listing. That green N will stay for 7 days. You'll also see a red B. That means it's back on the market. Typically it means it fell out of escrow. Again, it will stay for 7 days. You will sometimes see a green price with a down arrow. That means that this property has had a price reduction. Again, it will stay there for 7 days. And occasionally, actually more now in this market, you will see a red arrow. That means we've had a price increase. And again, it will stay there for 7 days. So when you look at this screen, it's giving you visual indicators, okay? Now we're in the one-line grid. The one-line grid, it says it's the one-line grid up here. This has some very special features, and we're going to do a lot with this. In fact, what we're actually going to do is we're going to customize this to make it even more useful. But if you're a visual person, this might just be giving you a headache, okay? I want to point out that you can actually do the MLS in lots of different ways. So if you come up here to the top right where it says Display, let's go to Gallery, because Gallery is about as different as it's possible to get. We're going to say OK, and we're now looking at the exact same 34 listings, but I think you'll agree it couldn't really look more different if it tried. I mean, hugely different. Notice that beneath each one there is a little camera, and next to the camera there is a number, blue and underlined, so it's a hyperlink. So if we click on this 23 here next to the camera, it's actually going to take us to the 23 pictures for this listing. And we can come down here and click on Play Slideshow. This is a very useful tool for an open house, for example, because you can go to the MLS, no additional software, you can set up a slideshow for your listing very easily. This looks like it needs some work, doesn't it? If you get tired of the slideshow, you can click ahead and click on any of the photos that you want to go to, and it will allow you to very quickly go through and look at the pictures. So that's the picture viewer. Okay, now we're going to go back to the one-line grid, and we're going back to the one-line grid because the one-line grid, as I said, has some very neat features. So we're going to click OK and go back to the one-line grid. Now, you'll notice that the one-line grid isn't necessarily laid out the way you want. In the next section, we're going to be actually sorting this list, and we're going to do it using these numbers and checkboxes on the left, and yet the address is over here in the middle of the page. It would be really nice to have the address over here on the left. Notice we have city, and then we have area. They're very close together, and they actually tell us the same story. In fact, area is more useful in this case. So maybe it would be nice to get rid of city. And then perhaps we want to see, what the HOA dues are for the condos. Obviously, a lot of these are condos, not all of them. And perhaps we want to see how many units are in the condos. Well, you can do that by customizing the grid. Okay, so if we come down to the sub-menu here, you'll see we have Customize Grid. And when we click on it, we're going to be taken to a place where we can make changes. Now notice up here at the top right that we're in the one-line grid. The one-line grid is one of the sort of key displays that is included in the MLS. I would not suggest changing it. So we're going to come up here to New. It's going to give us a little message box. It's kind of hard to see over there, but it's going to give us a message box. Pardon me. I'm going to call this Special. You can call it anything you want. Okay, we're going to click Create, and now Special will appear up here on the right. So any changes we make, we're going to make to this display rather than to the one-line grid. Okay, now the first thing to note is that selected fields here are shown as rows in a list. So you have to visualize that the top of the list is going to be the far left side of the columns. So if we want something to be over in the far left side of the columns, let's say the address for example, we need to click on it and then come here and just click on Move Up until we get it over on the far left. Okay? If we want to get rid of something, let's say for example we want to get rid of city, again we click on it. Notice I'm not clicking on the number here, I'm clicking on the name, and it turns yellow and I come over here to remove. Notice that there is a remove all. You do not want to do that. Just click remove and the city has now disappeared. Now over on the left we have a ton of different fields to choose from. And there are lots of things you can do with this. Okay, so for example, you could set up a grid just for calling to schedule appointments, you know, with all the phone numbers and showing instructions and lockbox information and that sort of thing. But what we're going to do here is we're going to add number of units in development. So I highlight it. It's asking us where do we want to add it to the list. So notice that my price is number 50. I want it to go after the price but before the days on the market. So I can put in any number between 51 and 59. I'm going to call it 55. And when I click Add, notice that units in development have been added there. If we come down now, we can go to association dues. The vast majority of condos only have one association due, so we're going to click on association dues number 1. We click Add. Again, it's here in the list. So now we come up to the top left. We click Save. And we've now saved our special, see the name up there in the top right, list. So to get back to our search, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to Searches, Saved Searches, and you will see that for each of the saved searches, here's the Fremont Elementary we did when we were in the mapping a minute ago, and here's the one we just did. There are 3 choices. The one we're going to use in just a second is to click on the name, okay? But if you wanted to revise the criteria, you could do it by clicking here. Or if you wanted to see what the criteria were, in other words, if you'd abbreviated it too much, you could click here and see the criteria. Okay, so we're going to click on the blue number here. Very good. And now we're back, and notice we're still in the one-line grid. So to get to our special view, we have to use the drop down, and you'll now see under your grids we have special. And when we click on that, you'll see that now we have the address over here in the left, we have association dues, we have units in development. So you can make this exactly the way you want to. Okay, now there's actually another way of doing this. Okay, you can actually grab these names and you can move the fields that way. Okay, now I didn't show that to you before, but you can actually very quickly move these columns around by doing that. You also have the ability to resize the columns. So you'll see that as I drag the boundary, it will resize the column, which means that you can make this so that you get much more information on a page. Does that make sense? Very good. Alright, one more thing you can do, and this is before we go and sort things. Notice up here it says that you can drag a column header here to sort. Now you can't sort by all columns. So for example, you can't sort by number of units in development, but you can sort by beds and baths. So if I want to sort by beds, I drag that up into this box here, and you'll see that they're now grouped by the number of beds. So I have studios, and then I have 1 bed and 2 bed and 3 bed. Okay. If I wanted to add bath to that, I would drag it up here, and now it's going to be sorted by, give it just a second to think about it. Well, it's taking a while, isn't it? There we go. So it's going to be sorted by studios with 1 bath, 1 bed, 1 bath. You see how this works? 2 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, you know. So basically you can sort by up to 3 headers if you want to. And the way you get rid of them, you just come here and you click X and it will go away. Okay, so we'll bring it back. Now that's as far as we're going to go in this segment, because in the next segment we're going to learn 3 ways of sorting our search results. So I'll see you in a minute.